not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
On this episode, the University of Michigan and the Detroit Pistons are dominating the basketball scene. Are we concerned about Justin Verlander with the Detroit Tigers? And are the Red Wings dead? All that and more as the Sports Reel podcast begins right now.
If it's in the headlines, on the first page or the last, it's fair game here on the Sports Reel podcast.
And we welcome you to the Sports Reel podcast, live on the PFC Entertainment Network. Along with Tim Sheridan, I am Jason Clouse, and conspicuous by his absence, although en route, is one Eric Mendal. He will be joining us in just a little bit. But before we do have a special guest on deck here this week, Tim. But before we bring him in, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing really good. I still feel like I'm screaming in my own ears, but I am doing good. I mean, as you can see, Eric's not here. Everybody clap for that. You know, where's my... Oh, damn it. But anyways, I am doing pretty good. There we go. I couldn't find my button. You know, it's another busy Tuesday. I literally just had to run from the golf course once again to get here because Chase had his first full practice at the actual course. So I was sitting in a parking lot for 2.5 hours waiting for him to get done. He's got 2 tournaments next week, so life is busy, man. Like the kid is just keeping me on my toes. But other than that, you know, life is good, work is good. I'm getting a little bit of a cold. It's either cold or my allergies are kicking my ass. So if I sound a little funny, it's because of that. It's probably my allergies because my grass is already growing. Like, what the fuck? I don't even want to start that.
How is that? I mean, I guess with all the flooding and stuff that we endured this week, like there is a significant part of the road that I live on is closed because it is a lake right now.
You should see downtown Lapeer right now. It's underwater. Oh, the park where we had the NWO reunion, completely underwater. Probably under 3 feet of water right now. Like, it's wild. The dog park, up almost to the top of the fence, water. Like, it's all flooded. It's bad.
Haven't seen flooding like this in quite some time, and we certainly feel for all the folks who are affected and inconvenienced in any way. I mean, that could be an hour-long conversation unto itself, but that's not why we're here. That's not why Tuesdays were invented, Mr. Sheridan. It is this show, the Sports Reel podcast, and if you want to be a part of the show on here with us live, the link is now available on the live chat if you're watching us through the Facebook feed, because we are simulcasting on Facebook, YouTube, and of course our good friends here at Riverside.fm. Speaking of friends, we have a very special guest, Tim, that's going to be joining us. Would you like to do the honors?
Yes, I would. We have Matthew, which is actually, I'll bring that up in a second, but we have Matthew from Don't Know Grit. I've was it about a month ago I put a post out online saying, hey, we needed somebody, and you were like, one of the first people to jump in there, and I appreciate that, Matthew. I've been watching your stuff almost since the beginning that I started getting on TikTok, I think back in November. So like I've been seeing your stuff and liking it, and you've been liking our stuff and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a match that I've been waiting to get on, and you just happened to reach out and that we made it happen. But Matthew, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely have enjoyed everything I've seen from you. So it's an honor to be on with you, and looking forward to talking some Detroit sports.
Well, we have a lot that we're going to dive into this week, and we're going to start with the most recent, and it's got the better part of the state of Michigan in a jubilant mood and celebratory mood here on this Tuesday, as the University of Michigan did what many thought that they would do, winning the 2026 Men's National Basketball Championship with a big win over UConn. This was the game that we as basketball fans, whether you're a Michigan fan or a UConn fan, just basketball fans in general, if you wanted to see a great game, that's what was on tap with this particular setting. You know, most of us here on the show picked that Michigan would be in the final game, in the championship game. Eric and I went with Michigan State as their eventual. Thanks.
I'll always remember where that button is.
Right. But be that as it may, that's what we got. And actually, we do have a guest in the waiting room right now that has a very unique perspective on all of this. Our good friend of the show, Scott, was actually at this game last night. We'll bring him in just a second. But Tim, did you watch this game from start to finish, and what was your overall take from Michigan's win here to win the national title?
Well, hell yeah, I watched it from the very beginning. I've watched the whole Michigan throughout the whole freaking tournament. And I do have to say one thing. I have slept on college basketball for years because I just never really watched it. I just started watching it this year, and oh my God, it is way fucking better than the NBA. Like, that's all I gotta say. Like, college is way more exciting. It's more physical. It's just everything about it is better than the fucking NBA. The way the NBA is now, you know what I mean? But Michigan, phenomenal game last night. You know, I saw some people say it was a little sloppy. I just don't think, I just think it was a defensive battle back and forth. Both those teams were just beating the shit out of each other. And I was there for every minute of it. But Michigan's defense was just swarming. And they just did enough to squeak by in that. They weren't hitting three-pointers or anything like that. It wasn't the Michigan offense that we were used to seeing through the rest of the tournament last night. But that, you know, you got to give credit to UConn's defense at the same time, because they held Michigan back a little bit too. But Michigan walked away this thing as the victor, and I was super fucking excited about it. I mean, I didn't even get to bed till almost 1 o'clock because I couldn't fall asleep. Like, I was that jazzed up after these guys won last night. Like, it was amazing to see that, because it's been 37 years. I mean, I was freaking 5 years old the last time they won this thing. So, like, I don't remember that. You know what I mean? Who remembers when they're 5? I got hit over the head with too many chairs over my ears. Like, I don't remember that shit, but I'll remember this one. Like, it was amazing. It was a good freaking tournament overall, and I am now a huge fan of college basketball because, like I said, way better than the NBA.
Well, I can appreciate that take. Matthew, I'm sure you tuned in for this game as most of the state of Michigan did. What was your takeaway with this? Was Michigan your pick to win it all this year?
They were, but it's a little bit of a homer, pick. But I thought that last night really showcased what Dusty May has been preaching all year long. And we saw it a little bit in the Final Four game when Yaxel went down. And all year, Dusty May has been preaching that some guys are going to have to sacrifice personal stats. And Yaxel himself has said that it was all about getting his teammates involved and not trying to be the star. And I think that paid dividends last night, where you saw other guys able to step up, while conversely on the UConn side, you get a little bit of foul trouble and it really hamstrings what the team was able to do. So I really thought that that championship game showed off what happens when you bring a team together and have one common goal, and 5 guys on the court playing for each other, and the name on the front of the shirt rather than the back of the shirt.
No, for sure. This, from the university standpoint, look, everybody knows, anybody who watches this show knows I am an MSU fan. But I do recognize and I do respect the lineage, the history, the legacy of the University of Michigan. I don't necessarily root for them, but I do respect all of it. Like I get it, you know what I mean? But last night I found myself actually rooting for these guys, and it was on full display. Um, this is a resurgence story that movies are made out of. This whole program, when you look at the University of Michigan basketball program and its history, there's a lot of checkered past parts in all of this. But this team was something special, and we saw it on full display all year long. We talked about it all year long. Scott, you were actually at this game, my friend. Kind of lay out the atmosphere for it. I saw one
It
Facebook
was
post.
it was wild. It
I
was
I
crazy.
Yeah, I saw your one Facebook post that said it felt and looked like, and I'm paraphrasing here, an extended version of Chrysler Arena. So there was that
Yeah.
many U of M fans there.
Yeah, I said it felt like an oversized Chrysler Arena. It was probably 75% Michigan fans, maybe like 20% UConn fans, and then 5% random people, some Arizona fans that stayed in town because obviously they thought they were going to be there all weekend, and such. But for the most part, I mean, it was all Michigan. It just felt like a home game. I mean, like being in a building that size with a crowd it was quite the sight. It was quite an environment. I mean, they definitely made it a tough game. It was very nerve-wracking, but
Sure.
just the atmosphere was unbelievable. Like nothing I had been a part of.
I don't really think anybody anticipated that we were going to see a blowout one way or the other once the stage was set with UConn, because I felt like UConn more or less, at least from the circles that I communicated with, like they went into that game as the underdog, going into the Final Four. But to see these two programs on the biggest stage that this sport on this level has to offer, this was the game college basketball really needed. And Lori said here in a little bit ago in the chat, they're not flopping around like they do in the NBA. Like, these kids are on the
Yeah.
floor, they're to play a goddamn basketball game, and that's what we saw. I heard the criticism. It was a little sloppy here, a little sloppy there, but at the end of the day, let's put it in perspective. The entire nation is watching this one game, one. And look, it was the game. Like, I was entertained by it. I didn't watch every single minute of it, but I saw enough of it where I'm like, yeah, I get it. Respect.
It was a close game the whole way. Like anytime you thought Michigan would like get some momentum and they'd be like pulling away, you're like, okay, here it comes. We're gonna do what we do. I mean, credit to UConn, they just come back and hit a big three and stop that run. So like Michigan could never do Michigan things. They were never able to really build that momentum to turn in. Like UConn made them beat them at their game. I mean, I didn't even realize. Like I got a text message at halftime. I didn't even realize that we didn't even hit a 3-pointer in the first half. I mean, it took us like 30 minutes to hit it 1 3-pointer. I mean, they did a great job, shutting down the 3-point line. Michigan, just Johnson and stepped up in Cadeau and just hammered it inside and made the adjustment they needed to make to get the win. But credit to UConn. I mean they're they've been there 3 out of the last 4 years for a reason. I definitely didn't take them lightly. I knew it was going to be a battle, but they gave Michigan everything they could.
What was the feeling among other Michigan fans in the stands? Where was there a sense of concern? Was there an overabundance of confidence? Like it
was a lot. Yeah. I mean, it was very, everyone was very confident. I mean, everyone felt like they were going to win. Like it never, like I said though, but it just never got to that. Like every time you felt like, okay, here comes that Michigan run, that stretch where they just blow people out. Like, and then UConn would just, like I said, they just hit a big shot and suck the air out of the building and just kind of bring it back down to life. So like, we never got like peak level because it's just like every time we get like Michigan fans would get excited. I mean, UConn just come down and then they'd hit a big shot and it just like shut that momentum right down. So,
Yeah,
but no, I don't ever think no one ever felt nervous like they were going to lose, but they definitely kept, like I said, kept it close. Kept us on our toes more or less.
Mm.
The UConn fans, you could see, like when we pulled it out to double digits, they started retreating very quickly. Well, they kind of gave up earlier than they should have, I felt.
Right. I don't know. You use the word momentum, and that's a very real thing. And it just felt like in the last few minutes there, like you could just really sense the tide shifting in Michigan's way. And again, credit to UConn. One of the best programs in college basketball. Their legacy is just as impressive. Now, Tim, you had said something. You had been sleeping on college basketball. What was it about this game in particular that made you feel like I really need to start paying attention to this shit now?
The physicality. I mean, it reminded me of late 80s, 90s basketball. It took me back to the days of, the Bad Boys Pistons with the physicality of that game with Bill Laimbeer and stuff like that. Like, the game is a lot more physical than what the NBA is. I mean, nobody's flopping. Nobody's, they're not calling stupid fouls anytime anybody makes any contact. Like, there's a lot of contact in these games without fouls called. And that's the type of basketball that I like to watch. It's a very physical game. In fact, I think Eric wanted to add something to this. Oh, there's nobody there. The dummy's still not here. But yeah, it's a physical game and it's exciting because it's physical. You know what I mean? I mean, Cadeau, I don't know how many times that guy went down hard as hell. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how he's still moving. Like, that guy went down, smacked his head a couple times on that court, just going up and then just getting laid out and just going flat on his back on the ground. I'm like, damn, like I miss this type of basketball. It's rough. And that's the type of, it's rough. It's physical. It's, it's athletic. It's everything that I wish the NBA still was. But the NBA is, I mean, you touch somebody with just a pinky finger and they're flopping to the ground, somebody's calling a foul. You just rub up against somebody and they're calling a foul. It's ridiculous. Like, the NBA is dumb. Like, it's hard to watch. And even though I still watch it because the Pistons are exciting right now, college basketball is just that much more exciting. And I've been sleeping on it for years. Like, now I'm a huge fan. I can't wait for next season to start up.
Very good points, and I'm sure you're not the only one who has those feelings, those opinions and sentiments. Um, like I said when we first started talking about this, man, like this was a game that college basketball needed on full display. So I'm really happy. I'm happy for hardcore University of Michigan fans like Scott, like like these guys. they have stuck with this program through thick and thin, through controversies and chaos and bullshit, and then the rise to where they are here and now. And I can appreciate that. I can respect that. Now, on the flip side of that, what I wasn't really necessarily thrilled to hear about was all of the crap that went on in the city of Ann Arbor last night in celebrations. Fires were being set and vandalism was happening, and I was like, God damn, man, can't you guys? I get you're excited. But do we really gotta really burn shit? I mean, what is the point of all of this?
Oh yeah,
Um,
you do.
well,
But
It's a
part of it is
championship celebration.
controlling the city, though, is part of the problem. I mean, those kids were literally camping out Sunday night to get their spot in line to get into their respective bars on Monday to be there all day to watch the game. So you figure they've probably been drinking for 12 hours by the time Michigan won a national championship. I mean,
that's true.
that's great. Like, I mean, when I saw that on Sunday night, like they were showing pictures of people tent set up at 10 o'clock Sunday night outside bars. It was cheaper to go to the game than it was to get a pass to bar hop in Ann Arbor last night.
Isn't that a statistic? That's interesting.
That's what that means. That doesn't help the situation. I mean, it wasn't like that in Indianapolis. Like, I mean, everyone was having fun. The streets, people were celebrating, but there was nothing crazy downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, but those people also, I mean, you didn't see any of that in Indiana. And like I said, it was basically all Michigan fans at that point. And, I mean, honestly, it was just a bunch of people that didn't want to leave.
That's a relatively simple drive from Michigan to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive.
Yeah, it's not that hard at all. So it does not surprise me that Michigan had a much stronger fan presence in the stands versus UConn, because I mean Connecticut is a ways away.
Yeah, they didn't even have their student section filled at UConn, which was surprising. Wow. But the thing that tipped, like Illinois, they piled. Like if you saw Saturday, Illinois was probably 65% of the crowd. And when you buy all these packages, you buy for the weekend.
Right.
So the second Illinois got knocked out, the market just flooded with tickets, and so it became super easy to get a ticket to go in Monday. And at that point it was just like I drove all the way down. Everywhere I stopped, it was just nothing but Michigan fans. Anywhere I stopped, all the way to Indy. I mean, doing the same thing.
Well, very cool. I'm glad you had that opportunity to actually be a part of that game in person. I certainly I love that for you, because I know what your fanfare for Michigan is. So the fact that everything lined up and you were able to, that's something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And
I was like, this is a once in a lifetime. Like when I saw the tickets and the prices, and I was like 4 hours. I'm like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm like, I gotta go. Like, and feeling confident that they were gonna win. I mean, and it's just being a part. Like I said, seeing the celebration, getting to see it, cutting down the nets, like the whole 9 yards. They literally do like the whole one shining moment package in the stadium on the stage. Like all the players watch one shining moment on the big screen in the building. I mean, nobody wanted to leave.
Right.
They actually sell merchandise. I mean, I got my shirt at 3-1. Literally have shirts printed for the winning teams that they sell there.
Well, they got UConn ones too. I want to get my hands on one of those.
You're going to a third world country.
They're in the third world country that same place that Patrick Mahomes jersey needs to go.
Oh, shut your damn mouth! Shut your damn mouth, Scott. I was waiting for it ever since. Showed up. I was waiting for it.
Well, listen.
Sorry, you put it on a tee.
The University of Michigan is not the only basketball team that made headlines this week here in the fine state of Michigan. Our beloved Pistons locked
Hold on a
down.
second. Somebody's about to run into the room. I can hear him slamming down the stairs, man. I can hear.
The world does not revolve around Eric Mendel's timeline. Okay.
I got
too late.
pizza
He
up in
missed
the
the
kitchen though.
celebration.
Might slow him down. Oh no, here he is. Here's this son of a bitch right here.
You pissed me off already, you fucking little bitch. You guys fucking started this shit without me with the fucking national champion. I was gonna say, don't fucking mute me already, but should have got golf over with. I told you, but fuck you.
Hey, we had an order, man. We have an order. We
I
have
get it.
gas. You know what I mean?
I get it.
We gotta
Hello,
keep
Eric.
shit in order.
I get it. Hello, Jason. Hello.
Good to see you.
Great. The game was great. I didn't watch much of it because I was tired. Got a big boy job now. I got to get up really early. So, but what do you want me to say? It's been 37 years since they won. It's phenomenal. And the comment you said, because I watched the whole time you guys got started, Michigan adapts to what they're playing to.
Yeah.
They adapt to Alabama. They adapted to Tennessee. They adapted to UConn. UConn's not a 3-point team. They play hard in the paint. That's what Michigan does, and that's what they did. That's how they won. It was a smash mouth basketball game. And I'm happy that you are a college basketball fan now.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Matthew, it's nice to meet you.
You as
know,
well.
All right, you got that audio?
Yeah, I got to that.
All right.
And Jason, fuck
lead,
you.
lead us in
Oh,
with
yeah, happy birthday too.
Oh yeah. Oh, happy birthday, by the way. The way we can legit say that because your birthday's in 2 fucking days.
Exactly.
We're not like it's
See, we
in
didn't
2
miss
days.
it. We did not miss it.
Happy birthday to
Where's my-
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jason. Happy
this is
birthday
what
to
happens
you.
when you start fucking around.
All right, let's roll back into the Pistons because we got a lot of Lions talk to do. So let's get the Pistons out of the way.
The number 1 seeded Detroit Pistons
Damn right.
Told you they were going to get it.
went 3-1 this past week. Last Tuesday, 127-116 win over the Toronto Raptors, followed by 113-108 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. On Saturday, a 116-93 win over the 76ers, and their only hiccup this past week, a 123-107 loss to the Orlando Magic. Only 3 games remain in the regular season. Wednesday, tomorrow against the Bucks, and then on the road for their final 2 games on Friday in Charlotte, Sunday against the Indiana Pacers. The Detroit Pistons, number 1 seeded. We have discussed on this very program whether having a number 1 seed or bye has been a good thing or bad thing for Detroit sports historically, but is that going to follow suit here with the Detroit Pistons? Tim, we'll start with you. Really no surprise that this was going to wind up happening as we started getting into the last few weeks here and just how dominant the Pistons have been overall. Are you concerned though with a number 1 seed in this?
No, because you can't live in negativity. You know what I mean? I understand that the Lions a couple years ago had that number 1 seed and it didn't work out too hot for them, but the Pistons have been proving to be arguably the best team in basketball. I mean, they've been still on a hot run. They went 3-1 last week. Cade is still not back yet, but he's due to be back here pretty soon. And they're doing all this without their superstar. You know what I mean? They're still winning. They're still rolling. Like when you have that much depth on the bench that can keep this shit rolling, even with your superstar not in the game, you got a lot of these other teams need to be in check. And I watch a lot of other content and I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and there's still a lot of teams out there, or a lot of people, not teams, but a lot of people out there that are still sleeping on the Pistons. Like they're naming off all these other teams that think they're going to go and win it all. And it's like, the Pistons are the best team in the East. They just wrapped up the 1 seed. You know what I mean? Like you're giving this team no credit. and they're still winning on a consistent basis. I mean, they're 3-1 last week without their star. You know, like you stop sleeping on these guys. It's the same thing. I was listening to a bunch of stuff. We go back to Michigan for a minute. Everybody was still sleeping on Michigan. Everybody was like Arizona or UConn or this or that or Illinois, and like nobody was saying Michigan. It's like, are you guys fucking blind? You know what I mean? Like that's Michigan's the best team in basketball. They just fucking ate through everybody in that whole tournament up until the end. And the last game, which turned out to be perfect, that it was the closest game and you know, it was the most competitive. But, you know, people are still doing this with the Pistons. And I just don't think they're getting the respect that they deserve. But we've talked about this a million times, Jason. Detroit teams just do not get the respect that they deserve. And Matthew, you can contest to that. Like, I'm going to go to you next, Matthew. What do you feel about the Pistons?
No, I agree completely. And I think that part of it is, you know, Cade has kind of ascended to this superstar status. But even throughout the whole season, you know, when you talk about these big teams in the East, when you talk about, you know, New York, it's Brunson. When you talk about teams in the West, you've got Joker or Luka. You always talk about, well, how can you stop this guy? And with the Pistons, even with Cade, it's not about how can you stop this guy. It's just the Pistons as the whole unit. And so I think that's part of the reason that they may not get the respect they deserve, you know, commercially or in the national media, because again, just like we talked about with the Wolverines, right? They're a collective. And so it's not easy to talk about. They're not pretty to talk about. There's not a lot of glamour to them, but over and over again this season, they've proven that they'll handle whatever you throw at them. And I think you've seen that recently with Dennis and JD just completely stepping up in Cade's absence. Didn't miss a beat. And it's not, you know, like Cade was stunting their growth, but they weren't needed at this level before. But as soon as they step into the spotlight, they take hold of it and they don't let go. And the people who, you know, overlook them, if they're on the other side of that court, they're the ones that are going to pay the price. And in the playoffs, I think that the opposing fan bases will quickly realize they shouldn't have overlooked us.
That's a real fair point. Scott.
I mean, I've kind of said the same thing about my hesitation on the Pistons all year. And it's not so much the talent, it's JB Bickerstaff's, you know, track record in the playoffs. So that's the only thing that makes me hesitant about this team. Like, they're definitely talented. They're definitely deep. But the regular season, every night, how often are you playing full teams? That's my only thing, because of all these restrictions and nights off and workloads that they have these days. It's hard to gauge. I mean, the two games that Oklahoma City and the Pistons played, the one game, the entire Thunder bench played, and then the other game, the entire Pistons bench played. So it's like, it's hard to tell where some of these teams stack up against each other in the regular season these days.
But I will make one comment, though. Last time Michigan won the national championship, the Pistons won the title in 89.
That's a good point.
So just throwing that out there. History can repeat itself, but they are playing very great. And, you know, if you got mainly your bench playing and you went 3-1, rest your starters now. There's 3 games left. Yeah, it would be nice to see them get to a 60-win season, but I'd like to see him do that. But, you know, let Cade sit. Everyone else can play because you don't want to lose that momentum. You already got so much momentum going. Keep it up. That's my opinion on that. You know, hopefully history will repeat itself and Detroit can bring the championship home.
I'm kind of with you on that, Eric. In the sense of, okay, a 60-win season would be cool on paper, but if that equals a first-round elimination from the playoffs, what the fuck does it matter?
100%.
You know, the immediate objective has been met. They made the playoffs, and not just made the playoffs, they're the number 1 seed in the playoffs. They're good. So we have said, especially, look, the NBA and the NHL can really make the claim of that cliche of when the playoffs start, it truly is a brand new season. Everything that happened before the playoffs doesn't mean dick. These are the selected teams in postseason. It's a brand new season. And that's kind of the mindset I'm really hoping that they go. Don't worry about any other statistics or anything like this because you don't want to run the risk of injury or halting any kind of momentum going into the playoffs. Because right now the Detroit Pistons have it, and all those weeks ago when Tim's son was on the show and he said the Detroit Pistons are going to win the NBA title this year. I was like, I can see that as long as they're consistent. And this is kind of where we are. But if they were to win the NBA title on the heels of Michigan winning the national championship, holy shit, dude. That's a story. That makes us a basketball hub in the state of Michigan. It's been a while.
Basketball town.
All right, so I got Scott's opinion on this earlier. They're gonna trickle back to Michigan. How many more national championships will Dusty May bring to Michigan in his era? It took him 2 years in Michigan to get us there to win it. Granted, the transfer portal was a lot, but that is how it is nowadays. And hopefully, I'm just saying this because I think of basketball, I think of Michigan, I think of Michigan State. Will Tom Izzo finally accept it and not be as stubborn as he is and try to go that route? Or will he always just want to recruit and develop players, which he's always been very, very great at? But how Dusty May did it, he's got a good recruiting class coming, and he uses a transfer portal. Is Michigan going to be a powerhouse in the next couple of years, just like Scott said, UConn was there the last 3 to 4 years?
Scott's real quiet on that question.
Well, I got Scott's answer.
I gave him my opinion earlier. I said I think he could do it. I mean, he's done it on 2 different teams. He hasn't done it with just 1 school. He's done it with 2 schools now. So I think definitely I can see him win another national championship with Michigan. But I also think in this day and age, it's not easy. There aren't there aren't many people that have more than 2 or 3. So
exactly, like he literally got
anything can change very quickly.
Exactly.
Dave just said in the comment, he said, Dusty May, the son of a plumber and the father of gold dust. So,
hey, he won a national championship. So that's just that. I'm just curious about that because he has definitely secured his spot as one of the best coaches in college basketball. And I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon.
All right, so Scott has some reservations about the Pistons throughout the playoffs. I still think the Pistons are. There's a good chance that they're going to be champions this year. You know what I mean? Like I'm
if not, hopeful. they're gonna make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, even if they go to the finals, I mean, can we all agree that going to the finals this year would be a step in the right direction? I mean, obviously we made it to the playoffs last year.
That'd be a successful season to me.
Like
if you make it to the East and win it, I'd say it's successful.
Yeah, like that would be, or even just making it to the championship game. But I just, there's something special about this team. There really is, and it's when a team comes together, it's a team. It's not one superstar. You look at all those things, and Matthew brought this up. You know what I mean? Like you look at, some of these teams have one guy. You know what I mean? The Pistons have all these guys, and they all work really well together. And arguably, Cade is becoming a superstar now. You know what I mean? But he doesn't really play like that when he plays. It is a team effort, even when he's on the court. Same thing. I mean, I hate to take it right back to Michigan, but you look at Michigan, that is a team effort. You know what I mean? It's not just one guy on that court that's really lighting shit up. It's a full team effort, and that's kind of how the Pistons play too. So I'm excited to see where that goes, because generally in the past with, Michigan teams, when they're like that, that's usually when they do the best and win championships. So, like, that is, I think that's signs of things to come. I think they won a championship. Matthew, you think that they got it this year?
I do. And I think that kind of having that team mentality benefits you in the playoffs, because if you're a team with a superstar and that superstar is having a bad game, that's extremely detrimental. But with the Pistons, they get to ride the hot hand because nobody seems to care who that hot hand is. If feeding JDE all night long is the way to go, they're going to do it. If Red Velvet catches fire or Duncan Robinson catches fire, they'll keep getting them the ball. Everyone seems to, just focus on what the end goal is, and that's the W. No one's got a problem with someone taking over the game as long as the team is winning at the end and, they get to walk back to the locker room playing that music.
That's a very good point.
Jason, what do you think?
Well, I mean, that's been the theme for all the championship teams here in Detroit. It hasn't been one superstar. It's been a team effort. We've talked about this. We've broken it down. We've analyzed it, and it's across the board. We've never really had that one marquee standout superstar that people would automatically place on a Mount Rushmore, which is unfortunate because you think of guys. Well, I guess Barry Sanders might be the exception.
I would say the only not trying to interrupt you, Jason. The only superstar I would think of on teams like that would be Steve Yzerman. It's the only one that pops in my head as that. But he was the captain and he led the team right, and that's why I feel like Fedorov lost because he wanted to be that superstar, but he wasn't going to be that in Detroit because we all knew it was Steve Yzerman's team.
Okay, here's a sidebar, and I want all of your opinions on this. When you look at Detroit icons, would you say that Steve Yzerman is a bigger star recognized than Isaiah Thomas?
Oh, damn.
That's
right. Look, Barry Sanders is on his own level. Barry Sanders is on the Mount Rushmore.
It's him and Megatron. Those for the two Lions, and then Stafford's a third just because how many years he played here and how good he was, but he never brought us a championship. It's Barry Sanders, Megatron, but I would say Steve Yzerman just because he had so many years of dominating in the NHL and he got that logo, Hockey Town, for Detroit, because he started when they were the Dead Wings. He got drafted. 18-year-old kid was the captain of the Red Wings. He brought them back. He had such good leadership. But Isaiah, man, that is a tough question, but I'd have to go with Steve Yzerman just because he won multiple cups and Isaiah only won 2 championships. Should have won 3, though, because in 88, they should have beat the Lakers to win it after he got hurt with that ankle sprain. But I would have to go with Steve Yzerman.
I'm going to,
You're going to go Isaiah because you're not a hockey fan.
No, I'm going to go Yzerman as well. And it's only because, growing up, Isaiah did,
he was the face of the Pistons.
He was the face of the Pistons through that bad boy era right there. But there's nothing like looking back at my youth and going, it's Hockey Town and Steve Yzerman's leading the shit. Like the Wings were the fucking biggest thing.
You could always rely on the Wings. You could always rely on the Wings to be good and have something to cheer for in Detroit.
Like and it's close. It's real close. But I think as an impact, as a nationwide impact, hockey was big in the 90s there, and I think Yzerman was he was the face of Detroit at that point in time. And they carried on that success for so many years. Of course, Dave always we're not forgetting Gordie Howe, Dave. We're just saying it was the 9. We mention Gordie Howe. If we're going to start bringing up other athletes, but the specific question was Steve Yzerman or Isaiah. I'm going to go Yzerman. Matthew?
So I think I'm going to go Isaiah. And not because I think necessarily he meant more in Michigan sports, but I think if you're talking the Mount Rushmores, you're looking outside of that league's fan base, right? Every NHL fan knows Yzerman. We all watched Fedorov, but Isaiah, I think, transcended the Pistons. He transcended basketball for that brief period of time. He was the, cover guy on magazines. And I think he was bigger to the sporting world at the time he played than Yzerman was to the sporting world. So just kind of broadening it out, I think that's what would make me lean Isaiah in that, the bad boys transcended just the NBA. And while I love, 90s Red Wings, don't get me wrong there, I don't think that they took the sports world by storm in the same way Isaiah and the Bad Boys did.
That right there. But before, yeah. Scott?
I think it's more Iserman, but I only because you had Gordie Howe, you had a long gap, and then you had Iserman, and then you had nothing before for a while, and nothing since. Whereas the Pistons have had multiple runs of success, right? They're on their third time rebuilding and being successful, making a run at a championship. And unfortunately, in this era, the only thing we've had for hockey is the Iserman run. When they had all those years of, dominating, making the playoffs, winning championships. And we've had nothing since then. So I feel like that's all that people have had to hold on to. Whereas people have had more, we had the 2004 run, and now we got the Pistons again in another run here. You haven't had that in hockey. You've had nothing else to even compete with that.
Yeah, but the last championship in Detroit was the 08 Red Wings.
But but you'd had to hear his whole thing. But
I did. I'm sorry. I heard the 04, so I don't know how big a hockey fan Scott is.
No, you'd
have
to hear his whole thing.
It's all one era, though.
I got you. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Jason.
I feel like locally, if we were to take a poll within the state of Michigan, chances are pretty good Steve Yzerman would be on top. But let me tell you, in my opinion, why he wouldn't be nationally. And it's strictly because, especially during the time that Isaiah Thomas was relevant and the face of the Detroit Pistons, the captain of the Pistons, the NBA was very prominently featured in all realms of media: television, radio, magazines, newspapers. Like the 80s era of the NBA was on fire, and a lot of that we could credit to Michael Jordan and his ascension to the top. But before he became the absolute, the man in the NBA, it was about the Detroit Pistons and their television deals with NBC, and like they're getting primetime spots, primetime exposure for the NBA Finals, the Pistons and the Lakers, and the Pistons and the Trailblazers, and then even later on. That's why I think Isaiah Thomas would be nationally be regarded as a bigger star than Steve Yzerman, although locally Yzerman probably meant a whole lot more to us, especially on a personal level, because even though he's Canadian and all that, like he came, like his whole career was here, and he really did everything he could to, like, he became the soul of the Red Wings. And I didn't really feel that with Isaiah. Like, he was the captain, but he wasn't the soul of the team because it was just too many other moving parts. But for the longest time, it was the Yzerman show in the Winged Eagle, jersey. So my view on that.
That's fair. That's very fair. And I think just because Yzerman more, because he was dominant longer.
Sure.
He had multiple years and all that. Pistons had, I'd say 4 or 5 years of being very dominant, and then after their last championship, and then when they kind of passed the torch off to the Bulls, they just went downhill. They didn't rebuild like they should have. They didn't. They didn't. It is, and it's like kind of like when they beat the Lakers. They finally got over that monster. It was kind of like passing the torch because it was the Celtics and Lakers back in the 80s. Those were the two teams. And then the Pistons came out of nowhere and beat them, won twice. And then, you had Michael Jordan in the 90s. He finally got over that hump of Detroit. That was his, he slayed the dragon. It was us.
I chuckled because you said pass the torch.
Yeah.
The Detroit Pistons did not pass the torch.
They
to
did
the
not. They
side.
did not shake hands.
Took
Nothing.
that
They
bitch
walked
to
off the
side
court.
and
Yeah.
walked the fuck off the court.
They did. But it was like that's what they were supposed to. But hey, they were the bad boys. They had to do it their way, and they just hey, we're out. But I remember Isaiah saying too, the Celtics, their starters walked off when they beat them finally and got to the finals.
Good point. I mean, this could be a longer conversation, but I know we have a lot more headlines and news to talk about, especially Tim with the NFL draft on the horizon. And Matthew, this is where you're going to be. You're
going to shine
prominent here
in
this conversation. So, Tim, as we come up to the draft here very, very shortly. And for the Detroit Lions, I know we've speculated and talked about this in previous weeks, but now that we're getting really close to this event, what do the Lions have to do here in your view?
A lot, to be honest, because I don't feel like they've done a lot in the offseason or made the moves that I was hoping that they would make. And I'm not talking about going to sign some big like free agent superstar like everybody was really wanting. And that's not realistic. But right now, we're still short of tackle with Decker retiring. And that's a pretty big position. And I know there's a lot of talk about moving Panay to left tackle, which, granted, was his natural spot in college. So he's quite used to playing left tackle. He didn't really start playing right tackle till, the Lions moved him to right tackle. So he's going to be, naturally back to where he played all of his college through. But that still leaves that spot of right tackle. They didn't fill that. They've gotten some guards, in free agency and a center. But like we still need that right tackle. So I think right now, I mean, first round has to be a tackle. And I don't know who's going to be left at 17. That's good enough to be. There's a lot of guards in this draft. I know that. There's some good tackles too, but are they going to be left there at 17? Like that's a pretty big position, and they usually get taken pretty early. So my question is, I'm going to ask Matthew this: do you think the Lions move up in this draft to get the tackle that they need, or do you think they hang out at 17 and kind of run with what they can get?
So, I think a lot of that will depend on Brad. How he likes his board. And I think the one thing that we've really learned is that his board doesn't always match up to ours. Now, 17 is a little late in the draft if you're, hoping for someone like Maui Noah, maybe even Fano. But I think there are enough tackles in this draft that you can feel comfortable enough at right tackle come week one that you can sit at 17. And in my opinion, because like you said, they need to do a lot still. And the draft is probably the easiest way to do that. Their nucleus is getting more and more expensive. And they've got 3 or 4 contracts staring them right in the face. So I don't know if they can afford to give up draft picks to move up. Now, some of that would be, how many spaces. If they move from 17 to 15, they may need to only give up a 4th round pick and they have an extra one. Okay. But if you're looking to move into the top 10, I don't think that they can give up the draft capital necessary because they need the pieces. And I think that, at 17, you're probably looking at someone like Blake Miller, who is a natural right tackle. I think that he can fill in immediately and the Lions will still be okay and still be an improvement over Borum. So I don't think I would be comfortable with them moving up, specifically because they need cost-controlled players more than anything right now to be able to sustain.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you. So you got Gibbs contract staring in your face. You got Jack Campbell. You got Sam Laportas. You got Brian Branch. You got Gibbs. I think I said Gibbs twice, so if I apologize for that. How would you feel with those ones? This is what I've heard. How would you feel if you put Sam Laporta up for a trade? You get a tight end back, but you can move up in the draft because the Commanders have, I think, I don't know what pick. I know, isn't it
7?
Yep, so that's what I thought. I wanted to say 7. Thank you. How would you feel if you swap tight ends and you got that pick at 7? Then your left tackle's gonna be there. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love Sam Laporta. I don't want to see anyone go. But if I had to pick anyone, he just had back surgery. How effective is he going to be? But also Branch just, tore his Achilles. So it's like, pick your poison there. And we have no idea what's going on with Curvy Joseph. So it's like, I wouldn't like it, but I'd be okay if they put Sam Laporta up. Like, hey, we need to move up. We need to get our left tackle or right tackle. We need someone there. I would be okay if they put Laporta up for trade. I wouldn't like it, but it would make sense.
Out of the 4 guys you named, those 4 guys from that same draft class, I think that Laporta, and I'm not saying Laporta is going to be easy to replace, but I think he's the easiest of those 4 to replace his production. And it may not be one guy, especially in the beginning. Laporta's blocking has vastly improved since he came into the league. You may need a blocking tight end and a receiving tight end, but you can find both of those fairly late in the draft. I don't think that you're going to be able to replace Gibbs' production. Jack Campbell runs that defense. And outside of Jack and Aiden, I would argue that BB and his versatility is one of the most important parts of what makes that defense run. So I don't think you can get rid of any of those 3, but I also don't think that you can pay all 4 top-end contracts. So if I had to pick one to move, it would be Laporta.
I can get behind that, and I don't want to see Laporta go, but you brought up, his blocking has gotten better, but if we could get, trade out and get a tight end in, return that maybe isn't as good of a pass catcher, but maybe a little bit better of a blocker, because let's be honest, Montgomery was a huge weapon for blocking when it came, to that position, and we lost that. And Pacheco doesn't fill that role. And we all know Gibbs can't block. You know what I mean? He's tried. He's just
tried.
We've watched it a million times. Like, he tries. But Pacheco's not that guy either. So if you could get somebody else in that position that may be a little bit better at blocking, maybe the pass catching capabilities isn't as important to this team with all the other weapons that they have. You know what I mean? Because Gibbs can also, drop out and run in that slot, and he's really good in that position. And so can Pacheco, you know what I mean? Obviously, Scott's going to give me a hard time about my fucking Mahomes jersey, but I'm also a Chiefs fan, so I've been watching Pacheco since he came into the league, and I'm a huge fan of Pacheco, and I was super excited to see him come to Detroit. Like, people don't give him the credit that he deserves. Like, he's a strong, hard downhill runner. He just never played in that scheme that was set up for that. You know what I mean? Kansas City's always been, a passing offense. He's never played for a running offense like he's going to play for here. So I think he's going to have a standout, shining year, especially if they get that line right. You know what I mean? That's what it's going to take. If they get that line right, Gibbs and Pacheco both are going to go off this year, and Pacheco might put out better numbers than Montgomery did. You know what I mean? Just because he's a stud, and I've been watching him since the beginning, and what he had to deal with in Kansas City, he did fairly well. Everybody's like, well, he'll get you 3.5 yards, but yeah, they're not a running team. They're a passing team. You got Mahomes. Why else would you be anything other than a passing team? I mean, the guy's, phenomenal. You're going to pass the ball, or he's going to run the ball. That's what it is. Who leads that yard in rushing usually? It's Mahomes. You know what I mean? So, he never got the opportunity there that I think he's going to get here, but he can't block. So if they could, if they did trade, Laporta away and got somebody who could block, not good hands, you know what I mean? But we don't really need him for that. We just need somebody who can block. Scott, what are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, they did sign Conklin, and he's a pretty decent blocking tight end.
Yeah, which is true.
So that would make a Laporta more expendable per se. They're in a tough spot, and we kind of knew we were going to get here. It was fun while it lasted, but
yeah, you can only keep them for so long. You know what I mean? You draft that many guys who turn out to be studs, and eventually you're going to have to let some of these good players go. It's the downfall of having a good team and having all these good players and all these weapons is you're going to have to let some of them go at some point, and maybe you use that as draft cap or, to move up in the draft.
The one downside, and I'm not going to no one's going to love Jared Goff to death, is that we couldn't find ourselves a younger, more inexperienced, more inexpensive quarterback when we were rebuilding nobody ever expected Jared Goff to be this successful. So then we had to take on the big contract that came with the success. And I think that's a big thing that they were not planning on when they were doing all this. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
And I don't know about that, because that was like one of Brad Holmes' first moves. It was to get Goff.
That was
yeah,
to
but
get,
nobody thought
resign him.
Jared Goff was going to last, though.
That's
Everybody
fair.
thought
That's
Jared
fair.
Goff would be a bridge to somebody else
That's fair. That's fair.
when it happened.
That's a fair statement.
So
I thought he was better than what people gave him credit for, but
100%.
nobody thought that Jared Goff was going to be the quarterback that he's become for Detroit.
yeah,
That's fair.
I mean, and he's been, what are the number, Matthew, you probably know this. I think he's leading the NFL in passing yards over like the last 4 or 5 seasons or some shit.
Since he came to Detroit, he's been leading in
Since he came to
passing yards
Detroit.
pretty much.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. I've always been a fan of Goff. Like I always had him on my fantasy teams when he played for the Rams, and he won me, my fantasy league one year. So you can't knock him. I was a fan of him when he was the Rams, and he went to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? He didn't win it, but he went to a Super Bowl. So the only thing I always say about Jared Goff, and I want Matthew's opinion on this real quick, is I wish that man was just slightly, even a little bit athletic. That guy doesn't have an athletic bone in his damn body.
Not much.
He runs at a snail's pace, and he cannot, he cannot escape a pocket. Like, how do you really feel about Jared Goff, Matthew?
So I'm actually a Goff fan, and I don't know if I want him to be more athletic. I mean, he's not. He's got the late hands on the touchdown catch, right? And that's important.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I would like to see, especially now, I mean, he's certainly not getting any younger, so he's not getting faster. And you only see it in spurts from him, is that ability to navigate the pocket. The thing that made another immobile quarterback, Brady, so good is that he could move 6 feet in one direction or the other, and that would buy him another full second. And I think that with Goff, he tries to rely on his arm instead of his feet, because I don't know if he's heard the narrative that he's slow or immobile, but there are times where you see him, navigate the pocket a little bit, and you're like, huh, okay, so he can do it. And then the next play, he just heaves one over the middle to a linebacker. And so I would like to see him get a little more confidence in that pocket. Now, last season may be an unfair season to grade that on, because the pocket didn't really exist much. But I think if he can start moving his feet just enough to navigate, an 8 foot by 8 foot space, that it would make a lot of the criticism of his mobility go away.
And that could be very true. Now, let me ask you, moving Panay to left tackle, do you think that's a smart move and that's going to make Goff look even better? If you get that guy a little bit more time, because usually when he's taking sacks, it is on that blind side, because I love Decker, you know what I mean? But he was getting older. He was injured. He'd let some stuff through every once in a while. Obviously, the right side, Panay was over there. He didn't really let much through at all, and neither did Ratledge. Ratledge actually had a couple rough games to start out, but then he became one of the top graded right guards in the league last year. So, like, he did really well at that position. So you were really looking at, when Glasgow was out, the center, they were coming up the middle, or they were hitting off that left side even when Decker was out. So do you think Panay moving over to that left tackle is going to make a big difference and make Goff and give him that extra time to get that extra, few feet, going to make him look a lot better?
So I think that moving Panay over to left, while Panay's pass blocking isn't as good as his run blocking, he's the best run blocker in the league. So I think Panay's pass blocking is better than Taylor Decker, especially at this point of his career. So they certainly won't be any worse. But I think that part of that is going to rely on if Mahogany takes that next step, or who's even playing at left guard. Some of that. I have no doubt that Panay on an island will do everything that he needs to do. But if Panay is doing his job and riding that edge rusher out, then you've got to have a guy directly in front of you that you're comfortable stepping up into for Goff. And while I do like Cade Mays, I think that guy's an absolute mauler. If they only have to shade to his right a few feet or to his left a few feet to get that pressure up the middle, then you're probably still going to have Goff looking like he's panicking. So I like the idea of moving Panay to left tackle. He's the best right tackle in the league. I don't think it will be that long before he can be the best tackle in the league once you move him to left and let him show it. But my concern is still for the interior, and that's where it was when we came into this offseason. So,
Well,
in a sense, I feel like Jared Goff will have confidence in his blind side, but you still want him to be willing to step up. And I don't know if we saw that last year.
so you brought up Cade Mays, and you look at his grades from last season, and he did really well for pass blocking. Now his run blocking, he did not do so well for.
I think Tim may have froze.
Okay, I was worried it was me.
No.
I thought.
No, this happened last week too. I think it was, or the week before last. Like randomly, he would freeze, and then it would kick him off the feed. So I'm not really sure what's happening. He'll be with us in just a moment, but I have no doubt. I don't know, man. Scott, when you go in,
What the heck just happened there? Yeah.
he didn't realize. Oh, he's gonna be so pissed. He's gonna be so pissed. He's not gonna realize none of that was heard. Mm-mm-mm. Hopefully, it's still on his end, and it'll be okay in post. It kind of worked out that way. So hopefully, we'll see what happens here. But be that as it may, as we wait for him to come back in, because I do want him to finish his thought. Let me just do a quick PSA real quick. As soon as my list comes up here for our online store. For all things of Sports Reel podcast, you can go over to pfcsportsreel.printify.me. That has all of our merchandise, t-shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatpants, and now we just released the spring and summer lineup, swim shorts, beach towels, umbrellas, all kinds of cool shit for the warmer weather. Hopefully, we're going to get some warmer weather here sooner rather than later, but be sure to check all that out. Some very cool merchandise over there. Not everything has Eric's face on it, so just, be aware. I mean, like, he's all over the graphic, but he's not all over the merch. And as our esteemed co-host rejoined the show here with us live, hey, good to see you.
No echo?
Stop kicking us out, dude.
No fucking echo. We're good
Stop
to go.
kicking us out, Jason. You're pissing me off.
I'm so excited. I don't know. Ever since last week with these storms, my internet has been spotty. So I don't know if there's some tree branches sitting on some fucking wire somewhere or something, but it's annoying the shit out of me. But back to my question, Matthew Mays. His pass blocking scores, he did really well last year, actually coming in off the bench. His run blocking, not so much. You know what I mean? He was lower scored. Is that something that they can teach him? Is that something that we should be worried about, especially since we're such a run heavy offense?
I think it is. And I think that part of the thing that we saw with Mays, I did kind of a film breakdown on him, was that he was kind of in a scheme that kind of leveraged zone a little bit more than I think he was comfortable with. We have to remember that he wasn't, a center, starting center before last season, really. So he doesn't have a ton of time at it. But when he was in a gap or duo style play, he's an absolute mauler. And now Drew Petzing is coming from a place in Arizona where he ran a ton of gap and duo. And you mentioned Pacheco because you've been watching him since he was with the Chiefs. You kind of have the same thing with his running style. It was a very zone-heavy system in Kansas City, and that's not his forte to run in. He's better in gap and duo plays. So you have an offensive coordinator who's coming from a place where he ran a bunch of looks out of gap and duo, with a center who's phenomenal at blocking gap and duo, and an RB2 who excels in gap and duo. I think it's a pretty good match. I think that we're going to see a Cade Mays that we didn't see before, and I think that might have been part of the reason why the Lions were in no rush to get into the bidding for the other centers, because they saw a guy who fit what their new offensive coordinator can do.
It's a good point. They're pretty smart about making those moves, and they might not be flashy or anything like that. Scott, do you got anything to fill in on this?
No, I think you guys covered it pretty well.
Rock on. So my next question, unless Jason has something to fill in here before I
No,
move
go
on to
ahead,
that
Tim.
subject. Okay. So obviously, you know, the big push during the off season was edge rusher, and they didn't make any big splashes in free agency, and I didn't think that they should. You know what I mean? I don't think that was something you don't need to go. Obviously, people have to live in reality, and Max Crosby was not in that reality. Hendrickson got way more than I thought he should for, you know, a 30 something or a 30, was he 30 or 32? You know what I mean? Like for an edge rusher, like he got like way too much money for that. So he wasn't in reality. Do you think that is a big need right now? Like, is that going to be like a second round pick? Is that something they should focus on? Or should we be more focusing on, you know, maybe a safety? You know, I know that you made a post. We re-signed Maddox, and that's a good re-signing. Like, I dig that, especially, you know, he did really well last year. But is that more important, or should they, you know, lean towards linebacker? Like, what would you think would be more important right now? Edge, obviously, we got Aiden. You know what I mean? And we let Muhammad go. I was a fan of Muhammad. I thought we should have brought Muhammad back, and they should have gave him more opportunities. Like, I think he would have did even better last year with more opportunities. They had him on the bench in prime times that I thought they could use him, but they let him go. So, what do you think is the next position that they should really focus on? What's more important?
I think that's an interesting question because watching the offseason moves they made, I'm not sure they're going to run the same defense. They let Anzalone go, and we kind of all knew they would last year when they opted not to extend him just to guarantee more of his contract. But they haven't replaced that 4-3 will linebacker. Instead, they got Clark and Derek Barnes, who are, you know, 4-2-5 will linebackers. They can't fill that 4-3 will role where they have to do a lot of coverage. If they go away from the 4-3, then I think they need to definitely focus on that safety and cornerback room, which they kind of had. When they signed Chuck Clark, I didn't think that they were going to bring Maddox back. I thought that was kind of the death knell, like, hey, we went this direction instead of bringing back Avante. Now that they brought back both and signed guys like Izzy and Chuck Clark too, who can both play kind of that box safety role, I think maybe we're seeing a little bit more nickel in the future, which I hope is true. That being said, and kind of, you know, getting back to the root of your question, I do still think they need an edge. And it's not because I don't have faith in one of them. I think he's an upgrade over what we had there last season or didn't have there last season as a possible 3-down edge. But I don't like at all the idea of us having to give any level of reliance on Levi there. And he kind of played that tweener role where he could, you know, shade into the 4-eye or even play some of the 3 technique. I think they need a big body guy who can do that, who can either stand up or put his hand down. I don't think Wonnum is that guy. So I do think that they need to be looking at edge early in the draft because historically, your edge rushers fall off pretty hard the further back in the draft that you go. There's, of course, the occasional success story, but for the most part, the higher up you get an edge rusher, the better they perform in the NFL. And I like using pick 50 on an edge. But of course, it depends on who's there and who's on their big board.
I think they froze up again.
I bored them to death.
No, no, I felt like something was happening. I could see Tim's animation kind of getting a little flustered and feel bad for him. But yeah, this has been a thing. No, I appreciate your take on all of this, Matthew, and it's, you know, it's cool to have guests on here that actually know what the hell they're talking about. It just makes our job so much easier. You know what I mean? Um, Scott, do you have anything you would like to add to what Matthew just laid out here?
No, I mean, I'll be honest. I've been this off season's been kind of frustrating, so I've kind of taken a step back, and Brad Holmes has been successful, so I kind of just like, okay, I'm just gonna not panic like people are, trust the process, and see what the roster is after the draft, and then I'll decide, like how concerned I should really be, because I just feel like we go through this every year where people panic about the Lions, panic about their decisions, didn't sign this person. Every time someone gets cut, we want to sign them, and we've been successful. So, even though, no, this offseason hasn't been as great as I would like it to be, I'm just going to trust the process and see how it plays out before I worry.
Kind of all you can do, right? I mean, we're sitting here.
Yeah.
I mean, we can sit here
Yeah.
and armchair quarterback all day long.
Right.
Today, it's out of our fucking hands. What's going to happen is going to happen. There's
9 times out of 10, when you try and guess what Brad Holmes is going to do, every year people are like, what does he do that for? And you know what? And then it turns out pretty good. So it's really hard to try and guess where he's going.
For sure.
Hi guys.
Eric, good to see you.
Dude, I am so fucking annoyed right now with my internet. Like, I'm gonna have to call Charter because they need to fix this shit.
Well,
like,
what the hell is that?
It's nothing.
Don't
It's
you
nothing.
work tonight?
It's nothing at all.
He's calling in sick. He's calling in sick. He has explosive diarrhea.
Matthew, get back to my question. Because we brought up the signing of Maddox. Do you think that is a sign of what's really going on with Kirby? Do you think we're going to see a lot of Kirby this year, and that's why we're not going to see a lot of Kirby, and that's why they re-signed Maddox?
I think it's a sign of how confident they feel in Kirby. The thing was that the combine was at the end of February, right?
Yeah.
And Brad Holmes talked to the media, and he said that he would know more about Kirby and BB in about a month. A couple weeks after that, he talks to the Lions Collective, and he says, we're still a couple weeks out before I know things. And then a couple weeks later, they signed 2 safeties. That, to me, doesn't say that about a month from now we'll have more info came out well. And while I don't know if Kirby's, done, I think that, given everything that we've heard, the rumors and everything about his knee, that it's not an injury that's going to get better. That, he's going to be, playing LeBron minutes where you don't know which games he's going to be in, which games he's going to be available for. And I think that Brad and Dan decided that you couldn't run a football team that way. And so they made plans to have people they could trust in that place. And I think that's what the signing of Chuck Clark and then Avonte Maddox, who performed very well for us last season. I think that they're showing you that they're not going to rely on Kirby, that they're not willing to do that.
Which it's fair enough because they've been in that position before, especially with, the Frank Ragnow retiring after the draft last year, which really put them in a hard spot, for the rest of the season. And that was another thing that I think they weren't willing to, worry about this year. That's why we've seen some offensive linemen that have been signed through this offseason before Decker even asked for his, his release. And so,
they decided they were going to pay Chuck Clark with Frank Ragnow's money.
Yeah, which is, and, we were all hopeful last year that, Ragnow would have came back, and he tried, give him credit, but he got to kind of move on from that at some point. So I like the moves that they've made on offensive line. Like, I think that's going to be, first round, somewhere on the line, they're going to draft somebody, hopefully a tackle. Hopefully they get a good tackle in that position. Second round, obviously we're still, looking for, an edge. I think you were saying something about pick 50, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that could be that spot there. I'm also like, with, Anzalone going, I'd like to see, some speed in that linebacker room, like I was really blown away last year with Green Bay's speed, the linebacker speed, you know what I mean? The way that they were able to attack and get on that ball real quick. And I kind of like that style of play, and I think that's something that they should really look into because we don't have that speed at linebacker. And obviously Anzalone, we love Anzalone, you know what I mean? But they drop him into coverage quite often, and he's just too damn slow, and he's not built for that. So if we could get some speed, that would be really helpful. So I'm really hoping that linebacker somewhere in that draft position somewhere. Whether obviously we don't have a third round, but if they really focus maybe fourth round on something for linebacker, how do you feel about that?
I think that it would be money well spent. There at pick 50, you'd probably be looking at a guy like Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, who would definitely fill that speed role for you. As you move later into the fourth round, you're probably looking at, upside guys like Alarms Orr. So I think that, with linebacker, you're probably looking at it the same way you are with edge, where if they want to run their defense through their linebackers like they did this last season, I think you have to take a very hard look at somebody like Anthony Hill there at pick 50. And you've got to say, we're going to run this through our linebackers. We're going to want them to hold up on the edge, and the pressure on the quarterback is going to come from our Sam linebacker, whether that be Derek Barnes or Malcolm Rodriguez. But then you've got Anthony Hill who can play that speed role. And, for as much as Jack is, the big hitter and the captain, he's got good sideline to sideline speed too. So if you pair him up with a second guy, like you're saying, I think you can get a lot of speed out of the middle, but you have to rely on that third linebacker then to be your pressure.
That's a good point. So it's all going to come down to, you'll be able to kind of tell exactly what they plan for defense by how they draft, in the first couple of rounds. So, other than that, the only other, safety, with Kirby being out, obviously, even last year, missing Kirby was huge because obviously he was a ball hawk. So that really shut down a lot of passing opportunities. It really made a quarterback think about passing. And I know Maddox did really well in that position, but he wasn't quite the ball hawk that Kirby was in the previous season. So it really put a lot of pressure on that secondary, especially, during passing plays, and they weren't so hot in that position. Maddox did okay. And, but cornerback also, we don't even, is Arnold even going to play this year? He's going through some shit right now. Do they need to focus also on that cornerback position? I know we made some signings, but Arnold being up in the air, is that another position that they should really be looking at in the thing? Is this going to be what I'm getting at, is it going to be a really defense heavy draft other than the first round?
I think it has to be, because if you look at it position group by position group, you're not concerned about wide receiver. Tight end, you're concerned only as far as you don't know if Sam Laporta is going to be healthy, but they've, added Conklin, who before last season had multiple 50 reception seasons. So you've got a guy that can, at least carry some water. You're not worried about running back. Whether you're worried about quarterback or not, you're stuck with Goff, so that doesn't really matter. So then when you flip it to the other side, those position groups are almost all question marks. Now, for cornerback, it's kind of a tough spot because I think your best cornerbacks in this draft are those nickel corners, the Keontae Scott style guys. That's where you have probably your biggest boon in the draft. So, DJ Reed looked good before the hamstring injury, but was never the same guy after the hamstring injury. Really, there's question marks at both outside corners. Rakestraw, do we even know if he can be on a football field during the regular season? We have no idea. So we've got McCreary, who I think was a fantastic pickup, but then you're kind of relying on, guys like Izzy he's played some outside corner, but do you want to count on him? Not really. I don't even know if I want to count on him as a starting safety. So you're 100% correct. I think that the draft has to be focused on defense. And, you can pick up some of those ball hawk safety guys in the later rounds. Guys like Bud Clark, who's just an interception machine out of TCU, will probably be there. But as far as an outside corner, I don't know if they're going to be able to find that in the draft, especially outside of the first two rounds.
So you think they're going to go for more of a nickel style defense this year, and it would almost make sense with the way that they've picked up people throughout, the off season, and then you'll be able to really tell once they go into thing. And it could be, a smart move to see how that goes, because obviously what they did last year did not work. You know what I mean? It didn't work. It hadn't worked in the last two seasons. And do we attribute that to injuries? Maybe a little bit. You know what I mean? they've been injury riddled the last 2 seasons to where they've just been super beat up. But their whole scheme just, without Kirby on the field, it just didn't seem like it worked. And even with Kirby on the field, they were still giving up a fair amount of points. You know what I mean? Like the offense carried them through a lot of that because let's be honest, the Lions have had one of the best offenses in the entire league over the last couple seasons, even last year.
Even last year, yeah.
Yeah, there was only a few teams that I think the Bills might have been ahead of them last year, but the year before, I think the Lions were ahead of them. There might have been one other team last year. I can't remember the exact stats, but they were top 3 anyways, last year. And the year before, they were the number 1 offense in the league.
Yep.
And it was that defense that settled through all those injuries. I can see Eric's got something floating on his brain right now.
I'm just listening. I like his analysis. He deep dives on it, and YouTube back and forth is great. I'm just enjoying the conversation, and I put my 2 cents in about Sam Laporta and all that, and just there's a lot going on with the draft, and they need to focus on, and and you need to get that left tackle first. If you throw Sam
right tackle
or right or left, it don't matter, but you need to get one. If you throw Sam Laporta up, I think that's the best move to move up to get that. And then there are, nowadays there's so many good corners and like that can come in and contribute. May not be a superstar, but they will hold their own and help you get to where you need to be. And so you need to address those 2 positions you need first. You need a tackle and you need a rusher. And then the other ones you can get in the later rounds if you draft correctly. Because there's risk going into later rounds. You just got to know what you're looking at.
That's very true. So, Matthew, we're looking at the schedule coming up this year. Obviously, they have quite a bit an easier schedule than they had last year. So, with what's going on, where do you see the Lions going this year? Like, obviously, there's a lot of people out there that, think the Super Bowl window is closed. I hear that all the fucking time, and it's, it's almost annoying a little bit to think that, they just say that it's closed, but there's a lot of other teams that have made progress over the last couple of years that are also up there that weren't up there before, and there's teams that we need to worry about, I mean, Washington was brought up earlier with the Sam Laporta trade. That's another team that, could come back and be pretty hot this year, but how do you think the Lions do this year?
So, given their schedule, and like we talked about with that offense, I think we should expect them to be an 11-win team in the regular season and then have playoff success. I think if they're not winning in the playoffs, then I don't think you can describe it as a successful season. But kind of building off of your point and how good the offense has been, that kind of gets overlooked because of how the seasons have ended. And if you can take an offense that is perennially top 5 and pair it with even a top 10 defense, I think that you're going to cause a lot of damage in the league. And, the old saying is defense travels. For the Lions, the offense travels. I mean, it was just a couple of years ago, they didn't lose a game on the road. And so I think that, we talked about trying to get guys on the defense. We didn't sign the big name. I think that maybe if we look at it as just like, we don't have to be the best defense, but if we can crack that top 10, be the 8th best defense in the league with the number 2 ranked offense in the league, there aren't a lot of teams that are going to be in that bracket where the offense and defense are both at that level. We can rely, in my opinion, on the skill position players on the offense. The defense is all the question marks. So, like Eric was saying, if we can get a couple of guys that can just hold their own out there and not be liabilities, I see no reason that this team isn't a double-digit win team. And while I don't expect them to be, number 1 in the NFC going into the playoffs, I see no reason that they don't get past the divisional round.
That's a good point. And you brought up a good point there when you're talking about, just a top 10 defense, because you look at them last year, and at one point the offense was ranked number 1. And I believe earlier on in the season, I think after 6 games or so, the defense was ranked pretty high. I think as high as like 6th in the NFL last year.
Yeah, I think we were 6th by DVOA.
Yeah, and they were the number one team in the NFL, and that was everybody's favorite to go to the Super Bowl. And then injuries started stacking up, and then all of a sudden that defense started falling. Now the offense never slowed down, but the defense fell off at that point because of injuries. So it shows you that, even with the guys that we had last year, if they would have stayed healthy, I think this team would have went a lot farther, even with the question marks on the offensive line, because even with those question marks, they were still a top 3 offense. You know what I mean? Like scoring wise, they were still top 3. Like the offense is dangerous, and they haven't really, in my opinion, I think with the moves that they've made, I think that offense is just going to get all the better. And the changes that you made with Cade Mays, and if you're running a different style of offense and bringing in Pacheco, you know what I mean, to run that style of offense, I think the offense only gets better. So if you can just add a little bit to that defense and get them into that top 10, like you said, it doesn't need to be a number 1 defense, because half the time you look at these teams, you'll have a team that has the best defense in the league and they have an okay offense. Right. And they go pretty far, but you're never going to have a team that has both. You know what I mean? It's very rare. You know what I mean? With the salary cap, you can't have that. You can't pay all these guys to do that. You know what I mean? Some teams like my Chiefs, Scott, I don't want to hear it. They do really well with their defense because Spags can turn nothing into something, it seems like, every year. Like that guy just creates weapons on the defense. They lose them all, but I'm never worried about it because he just has that ability to pick out the right guys and turn them into something, and then they go on and make a shit ton of money. I mean, we saw that this year. I mean, they lost 2 really good players on their defense this year, and they both went off and got super high contracts. You know what I mean? But I'm not even worried about them because Spags is going to be able to fucking figure that shit out. But the Lions, they're still trying to figure that out, and I think with the additions that they've made, the question mark on Kirby, you know what I mean? But I think with Maddox and, a couple other side, and maybe something in the draft, they're going to be okay. I don't think we need to worry about, are we going to have top 10 defense? I hope so. Maybe it's just, hanging around that top 10 era. And that all depends if we get Aiden some help. Because Aiden's kind of left out on an island down there getting double teamed constantly. And that's why Muhammad did so good last year. Like I was a fan of Muhammad, but could we realistically plug anybody into that position and they'll look just as good as Muhammad because Aiden's getting double teamed all the time? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
So I think there is some level of validity to that. I don't know if it could be just anybody, but someone with Muhammad's skill set. I mean, he had the 11 sacks last season, but something that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of how well his season stats looked is that 5 of those came in one game.
Yeah.
Right. So he had that one huge game and then was kind of, middling for the rest of the season. And that's always the knock on Hutch, is that he does the same thing. Like he just disappears sometimes. And so if we can get any level of consistency across from him, I think that both sides of the defensive line increase production exponentially. The problem with Muhammad was that teams could kind of see him coming for the lot of the season because the Lions were terrified to have him out there on running plays or on plays that a run was likely because he's terrible against the run. But on known pass rushing downs, he could pin back his ears and he had the speed to power to make it happen, especially when they were all looking to the other side of the line for, the all-pro over there. So I don't know if it can be just anybody, but someone with that skill set and maybe somebody younger who can do it more consistently could cause a lot of problems, even if they're not, Pro Bowl or all-pro caliber when they come to Detroit.
Good point. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I think we got the draft coming up the 23rd. And I don't know, Jason, what you're doing that night. You probably have to work. So me and Eric were talking about doing a Facebook Live that night for the draft, if Eric's still down with it. So we might be live on Facebook, for that draft that night.
Well, that's 2 weeks from Thursday.
Yeah.
23rd.
All right, let me see what I can do. If I can get that night off, Tim, I'll do it. That may also be the night that we do the beard bullshit, so I can get that off my plate.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. You gotta rock that out because I know Lori's brought that up quite a few times, and Vinny's brought that up too.
I see her every motherfucking day at work, right? And like I have to. I don't have to. I choose to, but like every other conversation is, when are you doing your beard? When are you doing your beard?
Hell yeah, brother. Hail to the victors.
Calm the fuck down. We're
Now all of a sudden
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, did you add up all the brackets to see who won a drink of their choice or no? If you have not yet, it's no big deal. You did.
I did, but my paper is at.
Okay, that's fine. Yep, we will reveal that next weekend. We'll realize it.
Who won?
I did.
You won? Horse shit.
He's
just saying that.
Horse shit. You couldn't even pick the right winner. I picked the right winner, damn it. I'm the only one who got the winner right.
I had more correct picks by one over Eric.
That's horse shit. I still need my dinner too, by the way.
Yeah, well, you got to set it up, motherfucker.
We got to do that one of these days. That's just the thing.
Fine.
So
anyway, get your fifth, but let's move on.
So to finish up with the Lions here real quick, because I know we got to move and we're going to have a little funeral for the Wings.
They're tied 1-1 right now with the Blue Jackets.
It doesn't matter. There's a funeral for them. We're doing it right now.
That's what you get.
My TV just fucking shut off again.
Shit,
my TV just shut off again, but we're still live. Anyways, so the Lions this year, Matthew, could it be a Super Bowl year?
What's your prediction?
Yeah.
Could it be? Sure. I mean, if Eli Manning can win a Super Bowl, anybody can.
Whoa! Come on! Whoa! Continue.
But I don't know if that's the expectation I'm going into the season with. Like I said, I think that they can get through the divisional round of the playoffs, and I think realistically, given the turnover that we saw last year, the coaching staff last year kind of went how you might think it would go when you had to replace everyone. This year, I think that Petzing is coming into an offense that is pretty ready-made, though I thought that last year too, so I'll tell on myself a little bit there. And I think that we saw at the end of the year, the defense actually started to adapt, and Shep, did a few things differently. So realistically, if the Lions were playing in the conference championship game, I would say that was a slightly above expectation, but I think that they are winning in the playoffs this year if they're playing at the level they should be.
Good point.
I like that prediction. I really like that prediction a lot. It's better than Tim's.
I don't want to hear your shit.
I don't want to hear your shit. I've had to hear it on my way here and then since I got here, and it's stupid.
Well, if you were here on time,
I have a big boy job now. I have a big boy job now, and I asked if we could start later, and you said no.
No, because we already have a schedule set up.
But we start every other Tuesday because you can't be here on time. So fuck you.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
There it is.
I don't want to hear your
still
shit.
love you.
I don't want to hear your shit.
Well, let's get into this funeral of the Red Wings because
I gotta get off before you guys go into that hockey. I got a couple things I gotta take care of.
Scott's gotta go take a poop.
Well, thanks for joining us, Scott. We really appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about hockey, the best hockey team in the state is also in Ann Arbor competing for a national title this weekend.
They are.
Hopefully Michigan wins another national championship this week.
They could be the first school to win the basketball tournament and the hockey tournament same year.
But you guys have a good night.
Thanks, brother.
You too, Scott.
Yep,
Thanks for joining.
Pleasure, Scott.
Yep. See you.
See you, Scott.
All right, let's look at what the Red Wings did last week. Not a whole hell of a lot, if I could be honest with you. They dropped one on Tuesday, 5-1 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They did rebound in Philadelphia to pick up a 4-2 win over the Flyers. Mm-hmm. Saturday dropped a 4-1 decision to the New York Rangers, and then another loss 5-4 against the Minnesota Wild. Eric, God damn it, brother! What?
They're every opportunity they get, the same teams lose. They're literally digging their own they're not making any ground at all. And they literally came back from the Minnesota Wild down 4-1. And they come back to tie it up 4-4, and then Patrick Kane gets a probably one of the dumbest tripping calls ever, and then they win it 5-1. And now they're playing Columbus in Detroit, and they're tied 1-1. It's why can you beat the good teams, but you lose to the Rangers that are not even in the playoffs anymore. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come on, like, this is not how it should be. And you're literally, your own destiny's right in front of you, and you're not taking grasp of it. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else they can do. You got to want it. You have to want it, in my opinion.
For sure. You look at the schedule, as you just alluded to, the Red Wings are tied 1-1 with the Blue Jackets, the red hot Columbus Blue Jackets. This team came out of fucking nowhere.
100%.
And now they are in the mix right now. Thursday, they will be playing the Flyers again, although this time it will be at home. And then Saturday, they're at home against the Devils before going to Tampa Bay on Monday. The error, the margin for error is non-existent.
No.
They just cannot fuck around right now. They are 2 points behind the final the final wild card spot as we sit here at this hour. We should not be in this position.
No.
We've talked about this for weeks and weeks. Matthew, I don't know how close you pay attention to the National Hockey League or to the Detroit Red Wings, but we have said on this air, and we'll get your take on this before moving on to the other half of the Illage portion of our show, that being the Detroit Tigers. But the Red Wings, man, we come into March. I mean, now we're in April, and now we are in panic mode, full-blown panic mode. Just
Every
one
year.
or two events away from this thing just being done. And, Tim had said a funeral for the Red Wings. We're hanging on by the skin of our teeth at this point.
And-
in your estimation, do the Detroit Red Wings have a chance to make the playoffs?
Side note, Jason, I will be there Saturday.
In Detroit?
Yep. I'm going to that
No
game.
shit.
Nice.
Yep.
Very cool.
So we'll see. But Matthew, what is your intake on the so-called dead wings right now?
Do they have a chance? Sure. Numerically, they do. But I can't help but think that these late season collapses, especially this year, when, like you said, their destiny is in their hands and it just keeps slipping away. If it happens a few times, you start looking at other sources. And I can't help but think that, McClellan's got to have some of the blame for this. I mean, these guys just don't seem to be ready for the spot that they're in. And like you said, the Columbus Blue Jackets getting hot at the right time. And that's really what it's about. I mean, we were all excited about the Red Wings when they were hot in January.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this March collapse has happened over and over again these last few years. And we've been,
year.
Trying to hope and pray, mid-March that we can just scrape it together. And while I think that they can make the playoffs, and I'm saying this as a Red Wings fan, I'm not entirely sure that's what I want, because I feel like they will get smoked in the first round because they just don't seem to take the ice with, that fire, that grit.
Urgency.
Yes, exactly correct. Yeah, they don't. It doesn't feel like they want to put their foot on the throat of the person across from them. It just feels like they're there to play some hockey.
I
So
could
fair-
not agree more. Now, Matthew, let me ask you this. How do I word this respectfully? Do you put more blame at this point? I mean, obviously there's problems across the board with this organization from top to bottom. Not even the bottom, because the Griffins are on fucking fire. Like, no, they've been damn near unbeatable this year. But from the Red Wings organization in the NHL portion of that organization, from top to bottom, how much of this collapse, of this state of the team that we're talking about, how much of that do you put in Steve Yzerman's lap?
It's definitely more than zero, right? I mean, I get the rebuild and the timeline, but it's been 7 years now,
Yes, sir.
and nothing. I mean, no playoffs, and as a Red Wings fan, especially in the 90s, we were kind of spoiled. Like, there was no playoffs without the Red Wings, right? Like, it just didn't happen. And, you know, I was really excited to have Yzerman come back, especially with what he had already accomplished. But at some point, you've got to say, you know, just like we talk about with Brad Holmes, like, if it doesn't work, you've got to change it. And you're not.
No, I mean, that right now it's safe to say that Steve Yzerman is on the hot seat, or at least the seat is warming up. And we sat here back in February, and what, you know, when the Red Wings started to gain some sort of traction, you know, we were looking online and reading all these other, you know, chat boards and all this other shit, you know, all this hype and yeah, rah, rah, rah. And Eric and I sat here and we're like, this is good, but it needs to be sustainable.
Yeah,
and as we have seen, it has not been.
Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath.
Yeah,
Like
we've seen this one before.
March is coming up, and that's the worst month for them. Just be ready. And clearly it showed, and that's why we're on the hot seat in April. That's why we're fighting for the last wild card spot in April. It's literally April 7th, and they have to win the next couple games to get in if they can.
Right.
Come on. Where is it at? Like, you know, Justin Falk is a game time decision. Why did we trade for him if he's that old? And, you know, I get he's probably he's a very good defenseman, but also Quentin Hughes wanted to come here and Yzerman didn't pull the trigger on him, and he's a defenseman that scores a lot of points, a lot of goals. Why did we not trade for him? Why was he not the big move we needed, even when he stated, I want to go to Detroit because I'm from there? So you have three Hughes brothers that are from Detroit. Who doesn't say Jack Hughes and Quentin Hughes don't want to come here and see their hometown team win a Stanley Cup again and be a part of that, what they grew up watching?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Spend the money. Don't get me wrong, Yzerman, it's not your money. Spend the money. Make a team that can win. Bring Hockey Town back, because you need to rip Hockey Town off the fucking ice. It's not Hockey Town anymore. It's not. It's not Hockey Town.
Shit, Eric.
It's not. It's fucking not. I don't want to say it, but it's not. It's not Hockey Town anymore, because Hockey Town is where it is where you put everything into a team to win. That's not happening right now. Get it off the ice. The fans wanted it. I get the fans wanted it because that's what we knew in the 90s and 2000s, because that's what we were great for. Right now, it's not there. Get it off the fucking ice. It's not Hockey Town.
Did you hear that?
It's not fucking Hockey Town.
Yeah, I heard it. And this guy next to me deserves to
annoying.
be smacked with a fucking golf club, and it's coming here real quick.
Get you fucking shots and you'll black
Next
out.
thing you're going to be saying is that the fucking original six doesn't matter either, motherfucker. I'm going to start calling you Zach.
No, okay. Too far there, but
I want to say you struck a nerve there, and
Jason, can you agree with my statement though? It's not Hockey Town anymore.
Listen,
it's not.
Eric.
The fans voted for it to come back on. Get it off the fucking ice.
I have felt that way for quite a while.
Get it off the fucking ice.
That's why I had asked you when you first came on this show. I'm like, do you feel like this town, this city, can legitimately still be called Hockey Town?
No.
And I said no, absolutely not.
And I agree with you.
It can be once again.
Yeah.
But if you really bought stock into that persona, that part of your identity, then fucking do something, because what you're putting on the ice, and again, Yzerman gets a little bit of that heat. The coaching staff gets a little bit of that heat. But Matthew, what I have seen from these fucking players that are actually stepping on the ice is that lack of urgency. It feels like they're skating with a 10-pound weight behind them. There's like everything is moving in slow motion, and I don't understand why we're not putting. I mean, are they hurt? Are they banged up? Fine, then fucking say that. Be honest with your fan base instead of us sitting here scratching the clawing and on the edge of our seats wondering, and our blood pressures are rising. Like, what the fuck is going on with this team? If you need another year to finally regroup and get healthy and do some draft picks and some trades and all this shit, fine. then fucking say that. But don't be, that's what drives me nuts about this is, yes, we're a playoff team. Fucking prove it. Because what I'm seeing on the ice is not a playoff team. What we've been seeing on the ice has potential, but for whatever reason, they're not pulling the trigger on it.
Well,
Why?
no, Matthew, 1 second. Just like their coach a couple months ago said, there's some hockey players out there, but then there's some jerseys out there that are just wearing the hockey jersey. Okay, but then it's okay. So is your coach calling you out and not making you want to play hard for your coach? And what's on the front of the jersey is more important on the back. Remember that. So if that's how you feel, then you need to be out of Detroit. Just like he said when he got hired in, play fucking hockey. But Matthew, go ahead with your response to Jason's little rant.
No, I mean, I agree with both of you. And, you know, we talked about where the blame lies. And Jason, you said it, some of that relies on coaching. You know, if you're going to say like, hey, some of the guys out there are just a jersey, you know, if you've got people out there playing like Jags, then make the change. Do something about it. If you say that, hey, it's just a bunch of jerseys and, you know, our second line or two guys in the second line are just jerseys out there, make the change. If you don't, then you're just as complicit. If you're saying like, that guy's just not playing hard, but you keep putting him on the ice, you're saying that that's okay.
For sure. For sure. And listen, Eric, I want this to be our hockey town again.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I like that's what I loved about this team. That's what I loved about this franchise. That's why I loved it when Mike Ilitch was at the helm of this thing, because he actually gave a fuck about what was being presented on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And I want more than anything for the Detroit Red Wings to become hockey town again.
Chris Ilitch should go to Eisman and be like, hey, you have an open checkbook. Get us back to where we were.
100%.
Get us back to that 25 years of making the playoffs. Get us back to what we were known for. Get us back there. Same with the Tigers. Why don't you have an open checkbook? To a point, because there's not a cap hit in baseball yet. You don't want to go spend millions of dollars for fucking stupid shit, but hockey, you have an open checkbook. Go get it. Max out the cap. Go get us back to what we were, because that's what everyone wants in Detroit.
Speaking of Tigers, since he just brought it up, that might be a good time to transition.
Let's get into the Tigers.
Say that. Let's take a look at what our beloved Tigers had done here last week. Man, I'll tell you what, they have been up and down, and there's been bright spots in just about every game. That is the silver lining. Last Tuesday, they dropped one 7-5 to Arizona. Wrapped up that series with another 1-0 loss on Wednesday to the Diamondbacks. I'm going to tell you something. They got down that Tuesday night with Verlander's start. They got into a 6-0 hole, and they were able to scratch and claw their way back into the game, only to fall short. And like, I've been watching the Tigers just about every game here, man. So I am fully dialed in. Friday, they started a weekend series with the St. Louis Cardinals, winning 2 out of 3 of that series. Friday, a 4-0 win. Saturday, an 11-6 win before dropping the nationally broadcast on NBC Sunday Night Baseball, a heartbreaker, 5-3 to the Cardinals. Last night, they opened up a series with the Minnesota Twins, dropping one 5-3. Looking ahead real quick, they're going to wrap up this 4-game series with the Twins on Thursday before starting a weekend series at home with the Miami Marlins. Now, that brings us to probably the most glaring headline this past week from the Detroit Tigers side of things. Justin Verlander had a rough outing in Arizona. Got pulled after 2 2/3 innings, was supposed to have his grand return to Comerica Park on Sunday night, national broadcast on NBC Sunday Night Baseball. Like, you could not have written the script any better. However, The news broke just a day and a half before his scheduled start that he was being scratched and put on the 15-day injured list with issues with his hips, which leads into speculation as to why we saw what we did with his team return in Arizona. So it brings me to this question, gentlemen. Is there a source of concern right now with Justin Verlander? Because as you know, Tim, I use this in comparison with the IWC with professional wrestling because with baseball, there is a contingent of fans who are very cynical. They are poking holes. They're forming their own narrative as to what's going on here. And already, just 2 weeks into this season, they're calling for Justin Verlander to be either benched or traded from the team. What the fuck are we doing? Let's calm down.
Well, okay. Well, I did hear he did have, like, as his normal throws were bothering he said his hamstring was bothering him after the first game. So it's okay. 43 years old, hamstring. Yeah, it's going to bother you a little bit. But as he was, getting closer to that debut at home, he was saying his normal pitches were bothering his hamstring. That's why he got put on that 15-day IR list. So did he tweak something the first game? He might have. He's got to understand he's 43 years old. He don't have, and all that power he throws, you got to warm up a little bit into it more. Maybe he, overdid it the first game. I don't know, but I wouldn't hit the panic button yet. Give him some time, get him on that 15-day IR list, let him rest, see how he feels, and go from there. I don't think he's going to get traded. I think he'll finish his career here as a Tiger, but give him time. If he's telling you if his normal pitch is hurt, something's not right, and if something did tear, I hope it doesn't, at least he's letting the team know not to hurt the team in the long run. Like, hey, I can't go, instead of just biting the bullet and trying to do it and getting down 6 runs, and then they got to try to claw their way back. So that's what I've heard. So that just want to give my opinion on that.
Well, with his scratching, this opened the door for Brant Herter, who had come in and did a respectable job the other night, picking up his win of the season. Tim, what's your take here with Verlander and the injury that has put him on the IR?
It's nothing that people need to worry about. Give the guy a little bit of time to rest. He's going to be fine. When Verlander came here, I said we should probably use him out of the bench anyways. Like, that was my thought of it. Like, bring him out, as a middle reliever, you know what I mean? Like, he'd have been great in that position. So maybe that's something they'll move to down the line towards the middle to the end of the season. If he can't, contribute as a starter, or he can't go as long as a starter, maybe he'll finish in there, because he is 43. And I mean, I am a master of hip issues because my wife has had both of them replaced now. So I understand hip pain. So if he gets his hip replaced now, he'll be ready to go in 3 months, let me tell you. So, like, my wife bounced right back from that shit. Like, she walked out of that place after a hip surgery. I'm not saying that that's what he actually needs, but I'm making a joke because he's 43 and he's old, but I can't really make that joke because it makes me feel old because I'm about the same damn age. So I'm an old ass man now too. So, like, that's probably not a good joke to make. A knock on wood, so I don't have to have a hip surgery. But it's a long ass season. The one thing people need to get out of their heads right now, I understand the Tigers have been up and down. I understand Verlander and his issues. Baseball is a stupid fucking long season. We are so early into this thing, and I would rather see them start out a little bit slower and get hot when it matters than what they did last year, where they started out super fucking hot and then slowed down when it mattered. Even though they went relatively deep last year, and I'm proud of them. I want to see them go deeper this year, but space this shit out. Maybe you keep us kind of like grabbing on, going, you're just floating right now, and then that second half of the season you're turning it on hot. And you carry that deeper into the playoffs, because that's when it fucking matters. So I am not worried at all right now. We are still super early into this season. So everybody, whatever, Jason brought up the IWC and how baseball has something very similar. Everybody just needs to shut the fuck up. Like,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it is super early.
God damn it.
Yeah. Matthew, what's your take on the Tigers right now?
I mean, you really hit it on the head. It's a long season. Talk to me about what Verlander's record looks like when there's only 2 digits left in the number of games, right? So he's always kind of been a pitcher that builds in games and in seasons. And that was why he was so good. He was dominant at the end when everyone else was slowing down. I don't think he suddenly flipped the script at 43 to be this hot starter. It's not how it's going to work. And if anything, it'll take him even longer to find his groove because, as we know, because we're older too, you can't do the things you used to do. And you have to figure out what your new normal feels like. And I think that, to Eric's point, him saying like, hey, this doesn't quite feel right, it's a good thing for this time of the season, because this is when you want to say, hey, you know what? My body's not responding like it used to. I need 15 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a smart move for the team, like overall. So, Jason, the overall feel of the Tigers right now. I know you've said that they've been up and down. I've been keeping track of the record, obviously doing, every Sunday I do the This Week in Detroit Sports. So I saw the record last week and went, whew, not as hot. I haven't been able to watch because I haven't, decided to pay the fucking Illiches a bunch of money to subscribe to their bullshit. But I did watch the Sunday night game because it was national TV and I was able to watch that one. The overall feel of the Tigers right now, Jason, how do you feel about the team overall?
Optimistic. Very optimistic. There's so much goddamn talent on this team. You look at tonight, like they're going in, they're starting this middle game or the second game with the Minnesota Twins. Tarek Skubal is on the mound tonight. You look at that starting lineup, and the guy that is making the most noise is the guy that you wouldn't expect, that being Kevin McGonigal. Like we came into the offseason talking about, Riley and Torkelson and, and
Keith.
Baez, Keith. And then this rookie comes in and he's got the poise of a 10-year veteran right now in week 2 of his career. And I'm like, look, they're going to be inconsistent. They're getting that flow. But here's the thing with this team, man. I have watched all but in their entirety. I've watched the majority of the games of this season because I am one of them dumb fucks that got sucked into the subscription to
Hell yeah, brother.
The Detroit Sportsnet app, because that's how I need to see this team. I need to see this team. This team runs very deep with me. You can tell him where I'm at in my house. This is my Tiger section. I have a Tiger section. This team is very personal to me. I am very optimistic because they have been in every single game. Not one point at this point in the season have they thrown the towel in. Well, we'll just wait till tomorrow. They don't have that mentality. Man, this team has adopted that grit mentality that is synonymous with the Lions. The Tigers are following suit. And this game with the Diamondbacks last week, when they went into an 8-0 or a 7-0 hole, they got within 2 runs of this thing before Arizona hit another home run in the 8th inning. But man, they were in it. And last night, even though they were down to the Cardinals, they kept fighting. There's no wasted motion. I think maybe 2 errors on the season so far. This team wants to win, and I'm excited about it. I'm not concerned. Verlander, this is exactly what I expected. It sucks that he's injured and on the IR. That part I didn't see, but calling up this new kid and seeing what he did in his spot. Bro, I'm here to tell you the Detroit Tigers, unless something catastrophic happens, the Detroit Tigers are going to be in the thick of things for the duration of this season going into the postseason. That's how I feel about this. AJ Hinch, say what you want about him, but he's got a vision, man. and he's trying to figure out the exact order right now. And credit real quick to Javi Baez for being the veteran that this team needs. For taking guys like Kevin, for taking guys like Colt Keith, for taking these younger talent, Riley Green, and really putting another layer of knowledge into their repertoire. This team is going to be something special, I feel like.
Well, you're talking about things being in the thick of things. You know what time it is, Jason?
Yes, sir. I do.
Because
It
it's
is-
I have one question.
sucks, bro.
It's that time of the show. It'll be sweet and short. Here's Tim Sheridan with the 2-man golf score.
Tim's 2 Minutes of Golf Talk, brought to you by the Sports Real Podcast. Eric, we'll get to your question once I'm done with the golf report. Let's get right into it real quick. We're going to cover last week before we get into the topic. We just cut off Eric, and I fucking love it. He's sitting out here, he's pouting, he's looking like a little baby. I love it. But let's talk about the Valero Texas Open last week. JJ Spawn won this thing at 17 under. Good win for JJ. That's his third win in his PGA career. We had a three-way tie for second. We had Kim, Wallace, and McIntyre tied for second. Tied for fifth, we had Putman and Alberg. Tied for eighth, we had Phillips and Hisatusune. Like, how the fuck do you say that? I gotta pay attention to that. And then a four-way tie for 10th, we had Fleetwood, Kim, Eckroat, and Wrighton. That was the Valero Texas Open, but this is Masters week, and I've been waiting for this week for a while because it's the first major of the year. Now, Matthew, do you watch golf at all? Maybe a little bit? Some. Now, do you pay attention to the majors? Like, that's usually the hot spot. Like,
Yeah, I'm more of so I work with a guy who's huge into golf, and I enjoy attempting to play golf, so I kind of got into it a little bit more. I can usually hold my own in a short conversation, but by no means do I have the depth as I do in your other sports. But I know enough that, this weekend I'm hoping that Auberg can pull it out and kind of give us something to talk about going into the last day. I'd like to see him get over the hump here. And, as much as I love Scheffler and all them, I want to see something different.
see, I'm right there with you with something different, and it's somebody because who I got sitting on top of this thing right now. It's somebody who hasn't won it yet, but somebody who's come close a few times, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. I think it might be his year. Like, he's been playing super hot on the Live Tour, and he plays Augusta really, really well. And Scheffler, he's been kind of having a little bit of falling off here. Maybe that's due to the fact that he just had another child. He's been focused in other areas of his life right now. And I mean, we can't write out Rory. Rory always plays really well in Augusta. And so does, Fleetwood's up there right now. That's another name that's kind of at the top of my list. Auberg, that's another one that's been right up there pretty much all season long. And Cam Young, that's another one that could very well step out because Cam Young's been hot. Big dick swinging Cam Young. It's the Hammer. We call him Cam the Hammer Young. But yeah, there's so many names up here, but I really think, that this might be Bryson's year. I mean, obviously there's no Tiger this year. We know the troubles that he's going through, so he's not going to.
What?
Yeah, no Tiger this year. And no Phil Mickelson either. Yeah. Tiger's in rehab, which thankfully, hopefully he gets the help that he needs, but no Phil Mickelson. He's dealing with some family health issues, not his own. Nothing's come out what exactly is going on, but he's not going to be playing this year. But I think, this is Bryson's year. That's my call. I mean, obviously you got John Rahm too. Like, he's always plays Augusta really well. These are all names that could be at the top of this thing, but this is one of those weeks that I get glued to the TV for golf because the Masters, there's something just prestigious about it. Like, I think like the Masters is the biggest tournament of the year. I know we got the U.S. Open and the British Open and all those other ones, but I think the Masters is the one that is the most prestigious. And Auberg would be cool to see. You know, he's had quite a bit of success. He's a very good player. Augusta's a little bit different, though. You know what I mean? Like, Augusta takes a certain type of player, and usually you see a lot of the same names make that run every year that are in that top 10, because certain players play really well at Augusta and certain players don't. There's just something about Augusta, especially since they've made it longer too. So they've had to switch it up. Another name I had on top of the list was Justin Rose. Like, that's another name that has played Augusta very well. Obviously, he went into a playoff with Rory last year, you know, and he almost won this thing, but Rory beat him in, you know, the playoff to finish off, you know, his winning all of, you know, the majors, you know. So that was really cool. But this is one week I'm really looking forward to. I got Bryson DeChambeau. Eric, you got any names?
I'm going to watch the Masters more than I have in a long time.
Good.
I was kind of excited for it. I think I don't want to say it, but I think Rory always plays great there. He always plays great there.
Yeah, and I mean he won it last year, so could
Exactly.
he repeat that? You know what I mean? Not too many players in history have repeated. He's only one of 6 players to ever win all the majors. You know what I mean? So could he be one of those players that actually repeats? I think Tiger's done it. It's a very low number of people who have actually done it. Scotty's come close, but he won it, you know, 2 years apart, you know. So but like you said, you like Scotty too. Scotty's always dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, any point he could show up, and he always plays. Obviously, he plays Augusta as well. He's won, you know, the thing twice already. So like, but this is going to be an exciting week of golf. I'm excited about it. I'm going to be posting a ton of content about it this coming up week. Usually I post a lot when the majors come along, but I'm going to wrap this thing up because I know Eric has something to say, and we got to close this thing out. But this was Tim's 2 minutes of golf talk. I know it's more than 2 minutes, you
That
son of a
was 6
bitch.
minutes.
It's
That
a
was
majors
6
week.
minutes.
It's Masters
That
week.
doesn't
Shut
matter.
up.
Talk faster.
It was
Tim's 2
my
minutes of
fault. I
golf
brought up
talk.
Auberg and threw him off.
Yeah, Tim's 2 minutes of golf talk, brought to you by the PFC Entertainment Hour. Eric,
Sure.
real quick, what did you have to say before we started the golf talk?
I was going to say, Jason, are you happy the Tigers are having this kind of trying to figure out what they got going on, and instead of being red hot start of the season last year and then tapering off and, you know, losing to the Seattle in the second round?
No, if it's going to be like this, I would rather it do right now.
Okay.
I would rather them figure out what they've got. I mean, they have a good idea what they've got, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at like what they've got going on in Toledo, see, here's the other thing too, as a sidebar. Like, I have a subscription to the MLB app. It gets me the radio feeds for every MLB game, and I did subscribe to the Tigers TV feed. But with that comes live free coverage of the Mud Hens.
Okay.
So I've been paying close attention to the Mud Hens too. Now, I would much rather they spend April, maybe the first week or two in May, and kind of get the pieces in place and figure out, you know, what they've got to work with. Now, the one thing I will say about AJ Hinch, and this is even when he was managing for Houston, and I didn't care for him in Houston because of all the controversy in 2017 with the World Series and the sign stealing and all this other shit. The dude plays chess when everybody else is playing checkers. He has a fundamental mind for baseball that is on a whole different level, and that people don't give him a credit for. So I think right now, and that's why we're seeing these like sparks of excitement. You know, they'll win 2 in a row, then drop one, win 1, drop 3. Like they're figuring it out. And again, and what people don't take into consideration when they're sitting there shit talking the Detroit Tigers, like the anybody that shit talks any team in week 2 of the MLB season, like, you're just doing it for clickbait at this moment, because we have 160 plus games to play here. I don't care what team you root for, because how many teams have we seen start off in the absolute gutter, and by the time October rolls around, they're playing in the World Series. The Cleveland Indians can be used as an example.
Yeah,
and I don't
that's why.
know Major League either.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if you'd rather have them figure it out now, and then towards the later run just start playing hot, and then October they might get real hot, and then who knows what they'll be after that.
This team has a lot of the same characteristics as the 2006 team.
Okay.
That came out of an abysmal season the year before. Worst team in baseball. And wound up going to the World Series. I see so many similarities between this squad and what we had in 2006. And the Verlander thing, you know, we just sat here and talked about it, and oh my God, he's too old. I knew this was it. You didn't know jack fucking shit. So calm down, okay? Because you are going to be the same motherfuckers that are going to be buying his jerseys and buying his memorabilia because his ass marched you to the World Series. Calm down. It's going to be.
Jason's calling it now. Tigers are going to the World Series this year. On another note, I just want to point out that Saturday we got Tyson Fury versus Makhmudov on Netflix. So we got a little boxing fight to watch. But other than that, Matthew, thanks for joining the show, brother. Do you want to plug your socials real quick?
It has been an absolute pleasure. The honor's been all mine. I'm Don't Know Grit across the board: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or X, whatever you call it. Don't Know Grit across the board. I post daily, pretty much all Lions content. So check in.
Don't Know Grit. Go check that guy out. He's great.
Always check me out.
He
Always
knows his
interact.
shit.
Yeah. Which
gave a Tim run for his money because Tim don't know shit.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm going to have you back on, so I'll stay in touch with you, especially as we get closer to the season, maybe even after the draft at some point. We'll get you back on. But on a programming note, next week we have Isaac from the Fun Football Podcast returning. And we got Cody from Catching Up with Cody in studio with us. So we have another little triple threat show going on. So that's going to be a fun one.
Sounds like a wrestling match.
Other than that, Jason, lead us out, brother.
Funny you say that, because as another programming note, we are going to be focused a little bit on pro wrestling. Very special edition of the Fatal 4-Way live this Friday on ONTV, beginning at 6 p.m. It is our annual WrestleMania preview edition of the show. We're 2 weeks away from the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. We're going to be breaking down all the matches that are signed for this Friday night. Orion ONTV on Facebook and YouTube, so be sure to check that out. And one more time, if you want any merchandise, any swag of this show, go hit pfcsportsreel.printify.me for all of our other great shows, pfcstore.printify.me. Matthew, thank you so much again for joining the show. Be sure to check him out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow buttons. We will see you next week right here on the Sports Reel Podcast, live on the PFC Entertainment Network.
Go Pistons.
Go Red Wings. They're up 2-1.
Yeah, they're the dead
Shut up,
wings.
Tim.
The dead
Shut up.
wings. It's over. Go Tigers!
Shut up.